Hey, I'm going to run you through my ultra endurance bike, which I'm taking with me to Amsterdam to go see my brother. It is a Wilier Jena in this very nice grey, yellow and blue. The wheels on it are the Fast Forward F4 350 DT Swiss, so it should have some good fast running along the very flat route to Amsterdam. On them I have the Pirelli Cinceratos in 32mm, which should hopefully be really nice for long distance, but also really quite comfortable as well. The bike is set up with GRX 2xDi2, which should be really handy for a number of reasons, which I'll get into later. I have profile design TT bars and skis with a 60mm riser underneath, so it should be nice and comfortable and able to get into a good position while relieving pressure off the hands. Now, let me take you into some more of the intricate things about it. The bike is disc brake with some really nice big rotors. I think they're the Shimano ones, and so should hopefully provide some really good stopping power. These are the Garmin Vector 3 dual-sided power meter pedals, which are really useful and would definitely recommend. These tyres are set up tubeless, and as you can tell, I've got some really good size to them. I'm going to run them quite firm, I think. The road should be quite nice, but hopefully really fast rolling on this nice, smooth surface. For navigation, I'll be using the Wahoo Element Bolt, the second series I think it is. I've always been really happy with the Wahoo. I really like that there's actual physical buttons that you can press, so when it's cold or when it's wet or you're wearing gloves, it's really easy and you know that you're pressing it and it's not likely to go wrong. It also has a really good long battery, so for long rides, the section from Dunkirk to Amsterdam is approximately 300 kilometers long, so that's going to be a full day in the saddle, and this should be able to hopefully manage all of it. Safety is obviously really important, and so I run the Exposure Boost R on the rear. It's got a really long burn time and a really bright light with multiple settings. This is the cockpit that I'm running at the moment. I'm very new to it, so I'm still figuring out what the best way to deal with it all is, but I've got these profile design TT bars with 60mm of stack, just because the last year I did the Pan Celtic race, I had a couple of issues with my hands just being on the hoods the whole time. So I decided to get these. The Wahoo is mounted on a small little clip attachment here, which is then very useful. I run an Exposure Strada SB Mark 11. The main reason for this is it has 10,000 milliamperes of capacity in the battery. It has up to 1600 lumens on its brightest setting, which lasts for 2 hours, but I probably won't be using that. But this, I've just got a little clip here that attaches on, so it'll be shining bright for me. One other quirky thing is I have, with this bike being Di2, I have an additional shifter up here. And so these just do the rear derailleur up and down, which will be very useful whilst in the TT position. In its current naked state, so without any lights, without the Wahoo on, no bottles, just the frame, the fancy cockpit, and then everything that's essential for it, weighs exactly 10 kilograms. And 10 kilograms isn't that bad, considering it's a disc brake bike, it's a gravel bike, so it's got some good reinforcement and sturdiness. It's got this full-on cockpit, it's got its disc brakes on, got a couple of mounts here and there, deep section wheels, thick tubeless tyres with sealant. There are definitely areas if I wanted to make it lighter I could. This saddle and seat post combination is not the lightest in the world. When it's going to be a very flat course to Amsterdam and for ultra endurances where half a kilo here or there doesn't really make a difference, I'm more than happy with how it currently is. The shoes I have are not the most conventional of shoes, but I really like them, partially because of the way they look. But they're the Giro Eastern C70 knit. Not many cycling shoes have laces, but I think it's quite fancy. I've had boas before and they're really good, super easy to do when you're on the go. But I quite like the novelty of them being laces, and I think they look a lot more casual and not like cycling shoes, which is always quite nice. On the cycle over there, I'm going to need to carry everything that I need for the weekend. So I have an Apigura frame bag. I took this on my world trip with me, and it's been used and abused and has lots of spillages and dirt, but it is still waterproof and could not fault it whatsoever. It's mainly going to carry toolkits, bits of food maybe, extra bits of clothes like arm warmers, leg warmers, something that's easy, accessible, can reach in it when you're on your bike. The latest addition to my bag collection is this. It's the Rafa front bar bag. I think it's some kind of special edition one, which I thought looked pretty funky. At the moment, this is going to house gloves, food, and maybe some other things, just as extra bit of storage. I also have this Rock Bros top tube bag. Again, this has seen a lot of miles. I think it was very, very cheap on Amazon or something. Don't think it was very expensive, and I see quite a few people with it. Really good amount of volume, can fit a lot of things in here. At the moment, this is mainly for my tech. So this has a power bank in it, all my cables, and actually I think it's got some inner tubes and some tire levers. But this sits on top, right by a stem, very useful. These are some little food pouches. I think they came from Decathlon, B-Twin. I believe they cost me about €5 and I've got 2 of them. So €5 each. I picked them up when I was on the continent, when I was just starting my around the world trip, and thought I needed a bit of extra space for some food. These are perfect for bags of sweets. Little bags where you can just dip your hand into it and grab out a handful of things. It's also very useful if you're running low on water or going to be going through an area where there's not enough water, is you can just put a can of Coke, bottle of Coke, or an extra water bottle in here, which is very easy to get to. But no, highly recommended, and these have definitely been well worth the €5 each I paid for them. Recommend. The main bulk of my stuff is carried in this Apidura main saddlebag. I'm not sure what literage volume this holds, but I think it's quite substantial, possibly the biggest one, I'm not sure. This has seen a lot of miles. This has probably seen over 20,000 kilometers. Slight bit of wear and tear. All the straps, all the buckles still work. It's still amazingly waterproof. A bit dirty, which it won't come out, probably because it's just a little bit ingrained and didn't clean it off enough or soon enough to when it got dirty, but love this thing. I'll be taking my GoPro as well. I love this. Super handy and useful. You can just press one button to turn it on, it records. One button, turn it off, boom, saved. There's also this Pro Standard mount, which you can have in your mouth or grip it in your hands, just like so. And it's really useful, would definitely recommend. So here she is, fully loaded. Got all the bags attached, a couple of little snacks for the ride. But yeah, no, looking good and ready to go. The trip is now done. It was a pretty eventful trip with a variety of weather conditions. I just want to give a quick rundown of how the bike did. Starting off with the tyres, they were amazing. I'm a big fan and convert of 32s, and who knows, maybe I'll even go wider. It was perfect. They were road tyres. I was on very nice roads on the continent, nice and smooth. Bike paths were amazing. They also performed really well in the UK, going through potholes and twigs and road debris perfectly fine. Didn't have a single issue with punctures or reduction in pressure. They are tubeless, but I don't even think that tubeless was needed necessarily. They still feel really hard and pumped up, same as they were when I left. Next, going on to the cockpit. So as mentioned, I had these Profile Design TT bars. They were amazing, especially when it was really, really windy and I was going into a headwind. These gave me this few extra kilometers an hour, which really helped out. The shifter here, godsend. When you're trying to be in the TT bars for as long as possible, having the ability to change gears due to a slight change in elevation or extra bit of headwind, it's really good. Helps change your cadence rather than having to just push through it or reaching down to the normal shifters. It's my first time using it. This connection was really good, but in terms of the battery life, amazing. In terms of the brightness, amazing. The level of brightness that I had it at for riding when it was dusk or dark was really bright, and it lasted 12 hours at that brightness. So that could get me well through an evening, a morning, and then the next evening, without even having to worry about charging it. I also really like that it tells you how much longer it's got left. So if you're unsure whether you're going to make it to your checkpoint for the night or whether you're going to need to stop and recharge it or change mode, that's very, very useful. The rear light was great. Only issue is it does get a little bit muddy sometimes, but that's more on the kind of conditions that I was riding in, and I could have stop just to give it a quick clean more frequently than I did. Bikepacking bags that I've used before were amazing, although I do have one slight issue. This Rafa bag is new and I really like it. It looks really cool, very functional, it's good to store stuff. However, very quickly, this starts to tear. The stitching between the zip and the main bag was coming apart, and that's a right pain because I've only used it once. I'm gonna get back to Rafa and hopefully either get a new one sent out, it repaired, or some money back because that's not really on. However, I did really like it. It was really useful. Bit of extra storage and somewhere else. The Wahoo was also great. Didn't let me down. I should have downloaded the European maps because I was doing it all in a bit of a rush, which meant that I didn't download the maps. So I had a direction line on a blank white canvas. Not ideal going through a city, but worked perfectly fine. Battery life was good. I feel like I've used it for maybe 4,000 kilometers now, and so maybe the battery life isn't quite what it was when I first got it. However, I don't have any real complaints. I kept it authentic by keeping the bike as dirty as it was when I finished. So my first big ride, barring a 200 kilometer Audax with disc brakes, and I really like it. I definitely feel more confident under braking. There weren't any too bigger hills on this trip, so I didn't have to test it out too much, but I'm a really big fan. Although there might have been little bits of dirt that got in, which caused a bit of like a slight rubbing sound, but I don't think that was too impactful. The GRX group set is really good as well. I didn't have to use it, but the granny gear is probably a really nice addition. I don't even think I really went into the little chainring at the front that much, to be honest. Managed to keep it in the big ring almost the entire time. No, really good shifting, just as swish as the Durays that I have on my other bike. No, I'm really happy with it. Wheels were good, they felt very aero and quick. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy with this bike, the Wilier Jena. I'm definitely looking forward to trying it on with a few more rides.